up your mind.
What are we talking about here? Cows eating free government grass. Can I make my position any more clear to Mr. Stewart? I stand for proportionality. What I do not stand for are 200 armed federal agents and snipers pointing their guns at the Bundy family and their supporters. I do not support members of the BLM pushing, shoving women and cattle being euthanized and killed in mass graves for cattle for no reason. But I have to be honest. I am shocked that Jon Stewart, who claims that he's such a devout law and order type of guy, would be okay with any of this. In all seriousness, that's a lot of pepper spray.
Yeah. It was a lot of pepper spray.
All right, did they cross the line? I don't think so.
No, that was proportional. In fact, they couldn't have crossed the line because I didn't even see a line because my eyes were burning because I just had a pepper spray subfoot shower. So that is a responsible exercise of authority. I mean, those people were clearly there, which I believe is provocation enough. The protesters were in possession of butts with intent to sit. So that sriracha bukkake was entirely appropriate. Sriracha. By the way, trademark phrase.
Oh, my God.
Well, what about stop and frisk, the random search and seizure based purely on appearance? Is that proportional or authority overreach?
Officials have cited the police tactic as being instrumental in reducing major crime in the Big Apple. As soon as they started it, murder rates went down, crime went down.
But just to say someone is suspicious because they're black and brown,
I think you're going to tie the hands of law enforcement.
Ah! You can't tie the hands of law enforcement. Sean Hannity will not allow this nation's law enforcement officers to have their hands tied when they need them to frisk the brown people. Brown cows, on the other hand, have certain constitutional rights.
Very strange, and it's getting even stranger. Enter, if you will, the year of 1965. Oh, my God. I want to live in the 21st century so bad that I'm willing to leave this bubble of talk radio just to go there because it doesn't exist here. It's like, I don't know, it's either 1925 on some days and some day, you know, robber barons and corporate titans are the most, and the tax code must favor, and, you know, and then some days it's just 1965, you know, where we talk about the Negroes now. You know, Cliven Bundy. I don't know if you know that there's audio, but there is, and I have it. Oh, yes. Cliven Bundy, for 55 freaking minutes, almost an hour, held court by the Virgin River, which got pregnant with Jesus or something. I don't know. The Virgin River right up the road from the checkpoint at the driveway of his ranch, which is armed, by the way. It's armed by guys like, oh, remember our friend James Yeager? Does anybody remember our good friend James Yeager, who when we all screamed out that we wanted some background checks to keep guns out of the hands of the mentally deficient, the mentally ill, the adjudicated mentally ill, the people on massive amounts of psychotropic drugs. Remember that? James Yeager got locked and loaded and started screaming at the media that he was going to kill people, and it turned out that James Yeager had his concealed carry permit taken away from him. And the whole right wing went ballistic, literally. I mean, this is not a term of art anymore. This is an actual phase of their behavior when they go ballistic, right? And then James Yeager was investigated by the Secret Service, and then he was given back his guns. Well, he's down at the ranch with Cliven. Just to refresh, because I know we have very short attention spans here in talk radio. This is James Yeager last year.
Hi, this is James Yeager for Tactical Response, and I'm kind of mad right now. I just got a news update. Today is the 9th of January 2013, that Vice President Biden is asking the President to bypass Congress.
Bypass.
And use executive privilege, executive order, to ban assault rifles, to impose stricter gun control. That. I'm telling you that if that happens, it's going to spark a civil war, and I'll be glad to fire the first shot. I'm not putting up with it. You shouldn't put up with it. And I need all you patriots to start thinking about what you're going to do. Load your damn mags, make sure your rifle's clean, pack a backpack with some food in it, and get ready to fight. I'm not putting up with this. I am not letting my country...
Begins. God only knows what the other things he said about the Negro before the tape started rolling. I think this is the inspiration for saying, I'm recording this, okay? But this is one more thing he knows about the Negro.
I want to tell you one more thing I know about the Negro. When I go through Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, and I would see these little government houses, and in front of that government house, the door was usually open, and the older people and the kids, and there's always at least a half a dozen people sitting on the porch. They didn't have nothing to do. They didn't have nothing for their kids to do. They didn't have nothing for their young girls to do. And because they were basically on government subsidy, and so now what do? They abort their young children.
Oh my God.
They put their young men in jail because they never learned how to pick cotton. And I've often wondered, are they better off as slaves, picking cotton, having family life and doing things, or are they better off under government subsidy? Yeah, they didn't get no more freedom. They got less freedom. They had less family alive, and their happiness, you can see in their faces, they weren't happy sitting on that concrete sidewalk. Down there, they were probably growing their turnips. So that's all government. That's not freedom.
And there you have it. Cliven Bundy, as it turns out, is a white supremacist. He's a bigot. He's a racist. I wonder if he's part of the grievance industry. Oh, no. And, by the way, Fox News has gone dead silent on the matter of Cliven Bundy now. Now they won't even, this morning I was talking to Beowulf, and he said, what are they going to do over at Fox? And I said, what do they always do at Fox News? It's like Tiller the Baby Killer. That was a rant that went on for like a year, maybe more. And as soon as some crazy lunatic extremist killed that man in his church, all of a sudden, they didn't know who Tiller was. They didn't know him. They never heard of him. They didn't broadcast anything. Their hands were... What are you talking... And the same thing has happened with Cliven Bundy. All of a sudden, there are no more reports from the ranch. Sean Hannity isn't talking about Cliven Bundy. Because... He speaks like Sarah Palin, except that in a way that makes Sarah Palin sound like Charlie Rose. You know what I mean? That's how rambling and douchey he is. But it is an amazing thing that, every time you scratch away at, one of these guys, he bleeds white supremacy. It's just so interesting. And these are the Tea Party fools. These are the freaks. By the way, I dare you to drive by any, downtown in West Virginia or in a small town in southern Ohio or anywhere in rural Kentucky and see how many guys, white ones, are hanging out all day with nothing to do. Oh, my God. It's so amazing. I'm starting to believe that Cliven Bundy's family has been ranching since the 1870s because he seems to be living in it. Negro, one more thing I know about the Negro, God only knows what he's, and he's not stopping. He's gone on radio shows today, okay, because he loves the celebrity. He's addicted to the rush. It's just, and he went on, he did? Oh. I thought he said he went on Hannity. I'm like, Hannity's going to walk away from him. That's, all of a sudden I know nothing. I don't know who that guy is. Sure, he was my big... I'm telling you, they have never found a gun nut, a white supremacist, an anti-Semite, anybody who is willing to, take on the government, that they couldn't make into a hero. But if you're not a white supremacist, if you're not a militia guy, if you're not a gun nut, and you sit quietly and the police come and pepper spray you at point blank range with a giant canister and just right down the line, then somehow you're in the wrong? This is just so strange. I can't. I want to live in the 21st century. Is that so wrong?
You know, I'm wondering, are they happier now under this government subsidy system than they were when they were slaves and they was able to have their family structure together and the chickens and a garden and
oh my God.
The people had something to do? And so, in my mind, I'm wondering, are they better off being slaves in that sense, or better off being slaves to the United States government in the sense of subsidy? I'm wondering. That's what the statement was right. I am wondering.
I have wondered if slavery was right. I have one. He's doubling down. This guy just can't stop. I mean, he got this little taste of celebrity, and now the total white supremacist side of these militia people and the Cliven Bundys of the world and the Trent Lotts. Remember Trent Lott? Trent Lott was, he was the Senate Minority Leader. He said America should have remained legally segregated. How happy black people were living under lynching laws. You had a presidential candidate call Barack Obama food stamp president. You had a campaign surrogate calling Barack Obama a subhuman mongrel. You just can't get away every time they open their mouth and really show you who they are from the white supremacy. It is one of the most dominant forces in the history of American politics. And you would think that after the 60s, you would think that, but no, the Supreme Court is, everybody's giving a live assist to turning back the hands of time and putting us back into some either pre-Civil War era or pre-civil rights era. I mean, we just had the Voting Rights Act gutted, and now you've got affirmative action being gutted by the Supreme Court. I gotta say, and it's just so amazingly white supremacist. Now, I will say, John Roberts is a little more articulate than Cliven Bundy. Scalia, not so much.
We've held that the 14th Amendment protects all races. I mean, that was the argument in the early years, that it protected only the blacks. But I thought we rejected that.
No, we didn't reject that. I mean, he is, it's so amazing how every election cycle that Barack Obama has been involved in, one way or another, either as a senator, this is when it started, 2004, either as a senator and a Senate candidate or as a presidential candidate 2 times, and now in a midterm election where he is not on the ballot. He is nowhere on the ballot and won't be in 2016 either. Now all of a sudden, I mean, they're just in a frenzy. It's all back again. The militia movement is back. The white supremacist talk is back. The hatred is front and center again. And, listen, a lot of us who've lived through all this, we all know it never really went away. It just became publicly unacceptable. We were able to shame those people into shutting the F up. We were able to make them feel ashamed of their bigotry, of their hatred, of their own lack of self-esteem. We were able to show them that it had no place in our homes, it had no place in our political discourse, it had no place in our broadcasts, it had no place in our children's lives. But they kind of, they paid this sort of a public price. They called it, of course they told us we were just politically correct. And in a weird way, political correctness was the tool to shame them. The real hammer, the real weapon against them was unadulterated shame, meaning there were consequences. There was actually a public credibility problem that they had. They weren't allowed, to say these things in our homes. They weren't allowed to come to those family dinners and say those things, and it worked for a while. And then we turned the light off because the right wing kept telling us we were politically.
you know, I'm wondering, are they happier now under this government subsidy system than they were when they were slaves and they was able to have their family structure together and the chickens and garden and the people had something to do? And so, in my mind, I'm wondering, are they better off being slaves in that sense, or better off being slaves to the United States government in the sense of subsidy? I'm wondering. That's what the statement was right. I am wondering.
You, the uber-American, this man is your cause?
I don't recognize the United States government as even existing.
He doesn't recognize America's existence. He's a U.S. atheist. Because the federal government does exist. In fact, it was created by those guys in that document you love so, so much.
The beauty of, I think, our framers and our founders is they put in place this document where they had the ability to right wrongs and correct injustices. Right. The American people really want a return to first principles and constitutional government. I love Washington because he gave up power. Amazing to me when he could have held on to it. Washington.
Now there's a founding father who could found the out of everything. How do you think he would handle an armed group of federal government rejectionists who wouldn't pay their taxes? Well, we don't really need to speculate because it was called the Whiskey Rebellion.
Hello.
And Washington, with his federal army, crushed it in 1794. I guess you would say disproportionately. And the reason that he was legally allowed to do that was because a man named Daniel Shays pulled the same 1786 and 1787. That's him apparently rolling down a hill. So the founding fathers called the Constitutional Convention to form a much stronger federal government that could collect taxes by force if necessary, which I guess makes you, Sean Hannity, not an American patriot, but an anti-federalist, or to be kind, let's just say you love the founding fathers, but only their early work before they sold out and became the man or men or white property-owning men.
Exactly. This is the revisionist history. Who told you about the Whiskey Rebellion? Who actually told you about it? And the Militia Act, okay? I mean, honest to God, you know, the Whiskey Rebellion, Washington, he actually, when he sent out the federal troops, 13,000 of them, to crush the Whiskey Rebellion, which was a tax rebellion. They didn't want to pay taxes on the whiskey, hence the Whiskey Rebellion. 13,000 of the federal militia, or as we like to call it now, the Bureau of Land Management, the National Guard, if you will, they all rode out to put down the insurrection of the Whiskey Rebellion. Guess who was riding the front horse? Guess who was in the front of the federal government? Of the federal officers who put down the insurrectionists that started the Whiskey Rebellion. Yes, it was the founding father himself, George. That's who was the front rider, the very first guy in that 13,000-strong government force brought to bear against the rebellion over the whiskey. I mean, you know, look, it took my breath away last night because I'm sitting there saying, God, and then this morning you wake up and all over it's the front page of the New York Times today. The story about Mr. Bundy is on the front page of the New York Times today, that he held court and for an hour, you know, supposed that slavery was a better condition for African Americans to find themselves in than being free people in America today. I mean, this is really the kind of crap that they spew. This is exactly what, and the amount, you know, the thing about this one that really made it horrible from the beginning of this story wasn't just that the usual suspects. I mean, yes, I said, oh, I'm shocked that there's gambling in Casablanca when I saw the front page of the New York Times today. Oh, yeah, I'm shocked, I tell you, shocked that they're white supremacists. Yes, there's gambling, round up the usual suspects, right? I mean, there was nothing really surprising about it, because nothing, while everything surprises me, I also know there's nothing new under the sun. So I was unsurprised to discover that the rugged individualist Cliven Bundy is a white supremacist and the bearer of some very bizarre theories about African Americans and their freedom. But what really makes this so hideous, it's not just that the right wing did what they did with Zimmerman, who shot and killed an unarmed teenager, and then tried to blame the teenager's clothing for his own death. The commonly known hoodie that is worn by everybody suddenly became the reason that Trayvon Martin deserved to die. Michael Dunn, the whole thing with the car and the loud music, well, it was loud rap music. Therefore, he was in the right to shoot these kids. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's not just that they come to the rescue of all these people that really, really peeves you. And it's not just that they even, listen, HLN got in on it too. They put this guy, Frank Taffy, on the air every single night during both the Zimmerman and the Dunn trials. Every single night, knowing that he had his own podcast where he was saying some of the most disgusting white supremacist, just wow things.
We're sick and tired of this this country where one minority group dominates and dictates what the majority is supposed to be doing. I don't think that's the way it works. And that minority group, they don't do anything productive for this country.
Oh my God. Well, look, I'm not going to say that they're controlling
Except for
us.
the NBA, and if it wasn't for the NBA, Joe, like I always say, our country would have the world's tallest garbage men. Okay? Thank God for the NBA. Well, it goes back to the premise that, I once said that the only time that a black life is validated is when a white person kills them. Okay. Other than that, we're part of the groove, man. It's okay to off 12 of us, and nobody cares. But I guarantee you that if I stormed into the local KFC with the AR-15 and offed about 12 of them, I don't think I'd make it out the front door.
Frank Taffy, everybody. The George Zimmerman trial, Fox News, the Sean Hannity of the world, sitting there praising Zimmerman, interviewing his brother, talking to Frank Taffy, the best friend of George Zimmerman. The same thing repeats itself in the Michael Dunn trial. Same thing. I mean, and then you do have, a Cliven Bundy, and you do have all these armed white supremacists, and they go running to their side. They go, anybody with a gun who's willing to shoot or denigrate African Americans is welcome on their airwaves. I mean, and then they're going to sit there and tell me that I'm part of a grievance industry because I'm grieving for the character of my country. I'm grieving. I can't even stand it anymore. I can't even stand it. But you know what? The idea that this is what made it different for me. Back in the 90s, when we had this militia movement, where we had a Timothy McVeigh, you had, somebody blow up the federal building. You had all these, the Ruby Ridge. You had the Waco situation. And, of course, the right wing always gravitated to the side of the person who was molesting the children or stockpiling the weapons or burning down his own compound or had a cult, whatever. As long as he was armed and white, they could run to his, side and defend him. Same thing with Ruby Ridge. They could always find a way to run to the side of the tax evader, run to the side of the person who was breaking the law, run to the side of the person who was molesting the child, run to the side of the person, that was in a church, that was in his own living room. As long as he was killed by somebody with, like-minded thinking, they were welcome on right-wing talk radio at the time, and now, of course, the whole right-wing news thing, they'll embrace that. But this time around, you had actual senators, actual presidential candidates, actual House members. Yeah, Representative Pat Garofalo, he tweeted out, let's be honest, 70% of the teams in the NBA could fold tomorrow and nobody would notice a difference with the possible exception of an increase in street crime. Okay? Now you've got legislators, you've got people in government who are running to the side of the white supremacists, trying to sell themselves as you know, Tea Party people or conservatives and all they are is a bunch of white supremacists, John Birchers. They're just a bunch of lunatics. They're a bunch of fascists. They're a bunch of people who are, you know, in the mood to tell America that the reason why 85% of the poorest counties in our country are rural white American counties is somehow got to do with inner city black people. I don't even get it. I don't understand it. I will never, for the life of me, understand, you know, how they get there. I just know they want to get there because there is a segment of the population in America that says, yes, that's true. You know, and they will show up to vote. But you had Ted Cruz.
I think the reason that this issue is resonating, it's resonating in Nevada and Texas and resonating across the country, is that for 5 years we have seen our liberty under assault. We have seen our liberty under assault from a federal government that seems hell-bent on expanding its authority over every aspect of our lives. And Thomas Jefferson famously said,
stop it.
The Constitution is meant to serve as chains to bind the mischief of government. And we have seen, sadly, our constitutional liberties eroded under the Obama administration. And I think it is in that context that people are viewing this battle with the federal government.
You are the federal government, you fool. You're a senator of the largest state in America. You're a senator. You are the freaking government. Who's more government than you, baby? Oh, my God. They've all come to the... Mike Huckabee came to the rescue.
Out in Nevada today, federal agents are pointing rifles at American citizens.
Who are armed to the teeth. Armed to the teeth and ready to kill people.
This is Jim Jagger for Tactical Response, and I'm kind of mad right now. I just got a news update. Today is the 9th of January 2013, that Vice President Biden is asking the President to bypass Congress and use executive privilege, executive order to ban assault rifles, to impose stricter gun control. I'm telling you that if that happens, it's going to spark a civil war, and I'll be glad to fire the first shot. I'm not putting up with it. You shouldn't put up with it. And I need all you patriots to start thinking about what you're going to do. Load your damn mags, make sure your rifle's clean, pack a backpack with some food in it, and get ready to fight. I'm not putting up with this. I am not letting my country be ruled by a dictator. I'm not letting anybody take my guns. If it goes 1 inch further, I'm going to start killing people.
This is who they're defending.
In an escalation of a standoff over a man who for 20 years has grazed his cattle on some land that the state owns. I'm not here to jump in on the middle of whether, Cliven Bundy ought to pay the state or pay anybody for the chance for his cows to eat some grass.
Oh, my God.
Here's what I would suggest. That there is something incredibly wrong when a government believes that some blades of grass that a cow is eating is so an egregious affront to the government of the United States that we would literally put a gun in a citizen's face and threaten to shoot him over it. Here's what I'd have to ask.
You know, I got to tell you, this is a white supremacist who is surrounded by a militia movement, oath keepers and patriot groups and all these, real psycho people who are just spoiling for a fight. They just want to start shooting and killing. They just want to. They have been told that their government is here to hurt them. They have been fed a steady diet of this for 30 freaking years. They have been fed a steady diet of racism. There's no question. There is no question. Anti-Semitism, racism, mostly racism, anti-gay rhetoric. The president isn't legitimate. He's a Muslim. He's here to undermine the government. You're all, we're going to take your guns away. I mean, all of these lies, they actually have consequences. People believe them. They say them often enough that the propaganda actually, as George Bush once famously said, got catapulted. We have to keep repeating things over and over again to catapult the propaganda. I mean, they knew what they were doing, and every once in a while they would tell you what they were doing in a cleansing moment of clarity. And now you've got these crazy people that live among us. And yesterday in Georgia, they just passed like a guns everywhere law. A guns every... You know, you combine deep-seated hatred for groups of people based on race or religion or both, a deep-seated hatred of your government with semi-automatic rifles and armed lunatics, it's not going to turn out well. It never does. It can't. And that's what they want. Because in chaos, you can steal. That's what all this is about. It's sad, but it's real. 49 after.
Randi Rhodes.
More woman than you can handle. But, wanna try? 866-87-RANDY. This is the Randi Rhodes Show.
Join us online at 1480kphx.com. This is Progressive Radio in Phoenix, 1480 KPHX.
I've often wondered, are they better off as slaves picking cotton and having a family life and doing things, or are they better off under government subsidy? Are those quotes accurate? Because you told me that's not exactly what you said.
No, that's not exactly what it was said.
And I've often wondered, are they better off as slaves picking cotton, having family life and doing things, or are they better off under government subsidy?
Oh, my God. Now he's denying to Alex Jones the he's denying that he said it? This is just like the most amazing Alice in Wonderland environment in which to get information. I swear to God, I just don't know how, people are going to sort all, how are you going to get through? It just blows my mind. It really does blow my mind. He's been so far today, I'm just sitting here, and Cliven Bundy has been on Peter Schiff's show, Alex Jones's show. I will tell you that Andrew Kaczynski at BuzzFeed is counting the mentions of Bundy today on all the different networks. Fox News mentioned Bundy today 2 times, and the mentions of Bundy in April before today, before he, started showing everybody how, supremely white he is, 458 mentions. 458. He was interviewed almost every single day on Fox News during the month of April. And today they've mentioned him exactly 2 times. Now they're going to pretend that they don't even know who he is on the Fox News. So he's going and doing all these radio shows, and now in just the space of a couple hours, he's done a right-wing show where he doubles down on the slaves remark, and still says he wonders if they were better off, if Africans were better off before they were citizens of this country, and they were owned and beaten. That might have been better than today, and now he's on Alex Jones's show saying he didn't say that. I got to tell you something. This whole Alice in Wonderland thing, this uber nationalism, this identifying your enemy as being a Muslim and now a black person and maybe a Jew here and there, this disappearance of your civil rights, the spying, the corporations being protected, the glorification of a militia movement, unchecked. These are all the signs. These are all of them.
Okay, people, look, I know there's more than our usual crowd in here, but can I have your attention, please? Can you pipe it down? Thank you. This special strategery meeting of the Republican base will come to order. Now, each of you represents a different part of our core voters, and we're here to make sure that we're all on the same page. Yes, you over there, the religious nut.
We prefer the term values voters. Thank you very much. For us, the most important thing is making sure that our agenda reflects the teachings of God Almighty. Jesus Christ the Lord.
Gotcha. I'm making a note of that right now. Gay bashing and denying birth control to poor people as promised.
Amen.
Amen. Anything else you want?
Well, now, it would be great if we could bomb Iran to set off a giant war in the Middle East that would lead to Armageddon and the second coming of Christ. That'd be good, too.
Okay. That doesn't seem like too much of a problem. The neocon wing over here is right with you on that, aren't you, boys?
Yes, and speaking for the richest 1%, anything that increases defense spending is great for business.
Oh, sure.
And Mr. God person over there, yes. I believe Jesus would also want the total deregulation of Wall Street, don't you?
Fine with us. We're all going to be raptured up there anyway.
Amen.
Okay. Well, okay. Who's left? I mean, who haven't we heard from? How about you, redneck racist?
Between the coloreds and the Jews, a real American can't find a job no more. We need jobs.
So say no more, Mr. Cletus. We do want to promise you that we will cut taxes on the very wealthiest Americans until all of your needs are met.
I don't see how that gets me a job.
Yes. Obama does want to take your guns.
God dang, Kenyon. We got to get out the vote.
We certainly do, yes.
Amen.
Excellent. Good. We're doing great, folks. Hey, let's take a lunch break. We tried to come up with a meal that would please all of us here. In the back, you're going to find some beluga caviar and pork rinds. And think twice about mixing the two. The XL pipeline's not done yet.
Blasphemer!
A little joke.
You should pray for forgiveness.
I should.
Oh, sure. Sure. Mm-hmm.
Corporations are people, my friend.
Takes your breath away. Because it's only funny because it's true. That's the only reason. It's true. You've got 1,000 militiamen that ran out to this ranch. 1,000 of them, okay? 1,000 of them ran out there to defend a deadbeat. A deadbeat. Then you had an entire conservative media, hundreds, if not thousands of radio stations, and thousands of hours of defending George Zimmerman. And then after that, you had conservative media and thousands of hours and thousands of radio stations defending Michael Dunn, who, killed some kids who were on their way to go meet girls at the mall, but were listening to music in their car. I mean, look, and then they couch it all in this, what I call uber nationalism. And this is one of the signs that that fascism is rearing its ugly little head in a country. It's so interesting, but when you look at like the CIA fact book to see who's the most democratic, or, they always look at things like uber nationalism, civil rights, whether they're, available to all people, whether there is secrecy or spying going on, if there's a glorification of a military culture, if there's, corruption in corporations, and are they shielded from prosecution, if the media is controlled, if there's rampant sexism, if there's a militarized police force, if there's, free and fair open elections, or are they rigged, or are they stolen, or are they, is it stacked up against the people who wish to vote? Are certain people prohibited from voting by virtue of where they live, or are they, in this case, redistricted out of, making free speech is considered? Yeah. We're so third world. It's just amazing how we're not a democracy anymore. And like I said, they're doing studies on it now. Princeton, Northwestern universities, serious places are doing serious studies on the condition that America finds itself in. And obviously, people are concluding, and they're using nice words like oligarchy. Plutocracy is another one. That's very nice. It sounds almost surgical. It sounds almost sterile. It sounds acceptable, but it's really just a euphemism for fascism. It really is. And, I go down this checklist, every once in a while, the 12 warning signs of fascism. Some have 14, some have 12. And we've met all of them. When I first started to see the uber nationalism, I got worried, okay? Because we were invading unarmed nations in the name of American freedom giving. You know what I mean? It was just so check, and check. The state's message is sometimes couched in an easily recognized religious theme. Check. Amazingly, this language is used even when the full context of the teaching shows the meaning to be diametrically opposed. Check. Any dissent is, quote, siding with the enemy and therefore treasonous. Check. Number 3, rights disappear. Disdain for human and political rights. Fascist regimes foster an artificial climate of fear by intentionally amplifying stress and anxiety. Citizens naturally feel a strong need for security and are easily persuaded to ignore abuses in the name of safety. I don't care if they're spying on us. I haven't done nothing wrong. Now you're all screaming about, the NSA is spying on us. Join my team. You could stop it before it starts if you were just with me on this, and you'd be right and consistent. That would be a breath of fresh air. The few still willing to question are met with bullying and smear campaigns and are intimidated. Hello. Legislative bodies are cowed into rubber stamp submission with occasional ceremonial opposition. The judiciary tends to become activist in support of states' rights. The public often looks away or enthusiastically approves as its own rights are stripped away. I told you, there's only 2 moods in this country right now, numbness and total agitation. The concept of the individual inevitably yields ground and is exchanged for the promise of safety for the all-powerful state. Number 4, secrecy is demanded. There's an obsession with secrecy and national security. The workings of government become increasingly hidden. Questioning of authority is discouraged at all levels of society, from office talk at the water cooler up through the entire apparatus of rule. Guarded speech and secrecy become ends in themselves. Troubling questions are muted. Entire areas of scrutiny are placed out of bounds by simply invoking national security. Number 5, the military is glorified. Supremacy of the military. The military establishment receives a disproportionate share of government resources, and pressing domestic needs are neglected. Individual soldiers and military culture are glamorized and made constantly visible. This provides an object for public glorification, as well as a sharp warning to possibly restless citizens that the power of the state stands closer at hand, ready to use its great potential for violence. Corporations shielded. Corporate power is protected. A segment of the business elite plays a major role in bringing fascists to national leadership, often from unsavory obscurity. This marriage of big money and raw violence is often considered by historians to be the hallmark and the backbone of fascism. As these business, government, military interests meld, the significant threat of organized labor is clearly recognized, and labor unions and their support organizations are either co-opted or ruthlessly suppressed and eliminated as soon as possible by any means possible. And Scott Walker could tell you, I mean, all these union, but it's amazing. Goes on, corruption is unchecked, rampant cronyism and corruption, power through this small group of associates, mutually appointing each other to interlocking and rotating positions in government, business, and the military, the revolving door. With this kind of control, they make full use of official secrecy and ready threat of state violence to insulate themselves from any meaningful criticism. They are not accountable. They are shielded from scrutiny in a way unthinkable in a democratic society. And then the media is controlled. There's rampant sexism, disdain for intellectuals, a militarized police force, a militarized citizenry, and stolen elections. Hello, lover. Welcome to fascism. You made it.
Let's see here. Global temperatures rise 0.5 degree. Alarm climate. Scientists boring. What if we show a porno instead of the news? Freddie?
No, absolutely not.
Freddie, come on. We're just brainstorming here. We're trying to figure out how to make the news less boring, and you act like we peed in your milkshake.
The news is supposed to be boring, Ron. Serious stuff.
I just don't know why we have to tell the people what they need to hear. Why can't we just tell them what they want to hear? Wait.
Say that again?
I said, why do we have to tell the people what they need to hear? Why can't we just tell them what they want to hear?
And what do they want to hear, Ron?
That we live in the greatest country God ever created.
Damn straight!
Folks, a huge story broke this week, which was completely ignored by the mainstream media. I wouldn't even know about it if it weren't for the intrepid reporting of award-eligible journalist Sean Hannity. Jim?
And welcome to a special edition of Hannity's America. We are calling it the greatest nation on earth.
The U.S. is the greatest, best country God has ever given man on the face of the earth.
Did you hear that? America is the greatest, best country God has ever given man on the face of the earth. Now, you might wonder about the methodology behind proving a bold claim like that. Well, it's fairly simple. You have your great countries, and you have your best countries. Now, those aren't necessarily the same. Some great countries aren't the best, and some of the best countries aren't that great. Norway's been coasting for years. Now, it goes without saying that all these countries are gifts that God has given man. But only some of those gifts are on Earth. There's some pretty cool stuff waiting for us in space. I'm hoping Unicorn Planet. And last but not least, you have the subset of things God gave man on the face of the Earth, which excludes such subterranean wonders as gold, diamonds, and the soulful music of the mole people. So, those are all the conditions. And what's at the heart of that diagram? America. QED, America is the greatest, best country God has ever given man on the face of the earth.
Am I making sense to you, Mr. Beale? Eddie in San Jose.
Hi, Randy.
Hi, Eddie.
Welcome to Fascism.
Thank you. Welcome. We made it.
I'll really miss Colbert's show, and I'll really miss your show after May, too.
We're all leaving, and Letterman's leaving. It's just time for us to go.
It's a whole new era.
It is.
So, well, you brought up how these racist insurrectionists, and that's what they are. They're insurrectionists, basically.
Yeah.
And they were mostly quiet for a while during the Cheney era. Maybe political correctness played a role in shaming and silencing them briefly.
Yeah.
But, I heard on this TV show, The Americans, about, it's about these Russian spies in the Washington, D.C. era during the 1980s. One of the things they did was blackmail government contractors and government employees to steal secrets. And the thing I heard that was on last night, one of the characters goes, if these blackmailers can keep you afraid and ashamed, then they can keep you silent. And this is exactly what's going on here with, as you pointed out, with the media, Fox News, right-wing talk radio. That's how they operate.
I know.
They shame and bully and intimidate, reasonable people.
Sean turned to an irrefutable principle of logic. Repetition makes it true.
One of the reasons the United States is the greatest nation on earth, the greatest nation on earth, the greatest nation on earth. Still not convinced America is the greatest nation on earth? America is the single greatest nation that God ever gave man on this earth. We say it's the greatest country God gave man, the single greatest, best, freest country God ever gave man. We live in the single greatest, best country God gave man. I say this on radio and TV all the time, and I say it all the time.
I think he's proved his point. He clearly does say it all the time.
I abide by all of Nevada state laws, but I don't recognize the United States government as even existing.
The courts disagree with Mr. Bundy's reading of the Constitution and have ordered him to pay for his use of the land like every other rancher does.
That's his hero. I mean, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's in stark contrast to, what they're actually doing. They'll preach, they just say these things over and 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 over, and then they do something else. That's Alice in Wonderland kind of stuff, and it's all meant to bamboozle you. It's all meant to create this uber nationalism in the name of believe it or not, corporate stealing. That's what fascism is. Fascism is government by corporations. It isn't any other thing. It has absolutely nothing to do with the people. It has nothing to do with democracy. It's a completely different way of governing a territory. And frankly, the corporations have come to this conclusion, rightly or wrongly, that, and this is why they keep telling you how lazy you are. They're beating that into your head, too, that people are lazy, they're takers, 47% don't contribute, you do nothing, you're not productive. All these things are happening at the same time for a reason, and it's because corporations have made a conclusion. They've decided something. And that thing that they decided, it's done, is that your labor isn't worth more than $1 an hour to them, when they can get prison labor for 2 cents an hour, or they can go to some other country that is happily communist, or some other country that is happily poor, and offer $2 an hour, and those people will happily work in factories on 12-hour shifts. They will sleep in bunk beds. Their dormitories will be surrounded by razor wire. They will have armed guards making sure that nobody leaves the grounds before their shift is over, or they can only leave when they're allowed to leave. Whatever. I mean, this is what Mitt Romney was telling you on the campaign trail the whole time. He kept telling you the story of, well, he didn't tell us, he told a bunch of insiders that happened to be videotaped by a bartender who was helping to cater the event in Boca Raton, Florida. And he said, I have disdain for the 47%. You know what I really do like? I really do like this communist China. They got these girls working in these factories, and they sleep in these bunk beds stacked 3 and 4 high. And they're just trying to earn enough for a dowry so that they can pay some guy to marry them. And there's razor wire. And, his conclusion was there was razor wire to keep other women out who wanted to replace them so badly for this, pittance of a salary. And that's why the razor wire was there. He said he figured it wasn't to keep the girls in. It was to keep the other girls out, because these were the only jobs. And they're in a race to the bottom, these giant corporate multinationals. They've decided that a country with a population of roughly 310, 315 million people is slim pickings. Especially when we're so in debt, we have no savings. Our unions have been busted. We didn't do anything. It's not like the old days when, somebody would come to bust up your labor union and people would go on hunger strikes, or they would, literally, die, be beaten to death by the Pinkertons or whatever, defense contractor would come in there to break up your union. People would stand up and they would take whatever, because they understood the only thing they had was their numbers and collective bargaining, and they would fight for their right to be freedom of assembly is basically what that is. And so they would fight to protect that civil right. But not anymore. Not anymore. And so they came and did all these things to, collective bargaining and to unions and to the ability to negotiate. And once all these things were in place, they funneled all the money up. All the money goes up now. I mean, our nation is still the richest nation on the planet, believe it or not. It's just that 99% of us haven't seen a raise in 30 years. Maybe 3% over 30 years. Other countries, 20% raises, 10%, to stay with the cost of living, to actually succeed, to actually build their middle class. Not us. Because the powers that be have decided that there should not be a consumer-driven economy. There shouldn't be supply and demand for goods. There should only be supply and demand for services. That's it. And the services that that you would do, they want more people in the pool who are willing to do those things, so that they could drive down the cost of doing those things. And those things are going to be pretty menial. I mean, this is really where they want to trade places. They want you to become the wage slaves, and they want the new 1 billion strong in India, the 1 billion strong in China, to be the new consumers of the world. Somebody's got to do the work that they're doing now, that real menial work, that factory work, that and they can't. They don't want to pay a fair price. They don't want to pay a living wage because they're so used to not having to. So if they bring the jobs here, it'll only be because their taxes are very, very low. They have a friendly government. who removes all regulations about safe work environments, 40-hour work weeks, child labor laws, time off. I mean, we're like the only country that doesn't have time off. We're like the only country that doesn't have 5 weeks vacation or maternity leave or fathers being able to stay home and bond with their newborns. And then we look and we go, look at the destruction of the family. They'll blame it on black people. Sure they will, because it's convenient and people actually believe it, which is just mind-blowing. But the true destruction of the family is through incarceration, drug laws, policy, right? It's through being poor breaks up more families than any other thing. Fighting over money is the number one thing people fight about. Drug abuse. That'll break up a family pretty freaking quick. Lack of contraception so that you're having like 13, 14 kids again. You know, Cliven Bundy's got, 13 kids? Yeah, he's got 13 kids. I mean, look, they have thought of everything, and it's really creepy. And the one thing that you can do that undoes all that they've thought of is, I swear to God, voting them out. Sending a crystal clear message that you're on to them. You understand their priorities. You've seen their budgets. You get it. They want to make people destitute. They want to cut the legs off of people who have worked their whole lives but now are in their 40s or 50s and can't find another job because, somebody would rather hire somebody who is 30 with less maybe health problems. Whatever it is, they've decided. I mean, it's just unbelievable. We have incarcerated ourselves. We have the affirmative action case. That is just a flaming example. That's like a big boil on the ass of America that decision actually came and went and nobody screamed. The McCutcheon decision came and went and nobody screamed. Citizens United came and went and nobody screamed. The Voting Rights Act was gutted. It came, it happened, nobody screamed. I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's just two moods in this country. One is like, oh, well, and there's nothing I can do about it. And the other one is arm up and shoot at things. I don't know what, but shoot at things. And neither one of those are going to solve your problem. Neither one. Jay in Detroit.
Randi Rhodes.
Yes.
I have listened to you for so many years.
Yes, you have.
I have never come across somebody like you as a person who can explain the racism and the classism and the fascism and see where they're all interconnected and not fall apart in their argument or get so wordy that, they lose all impact.
Yeah.
And I'm going to miss you, but I wish you absolutely the best in whatever you want to do, and make sure you leave a way to get us a message on what you want to do next, if you want to do anything.
Oh, well, you know what? People are migrating to my personal Facebook page, which is, it's open to anybody that wants to go there. Not the one on the website, because here's a creepy little thing that's going to happen. I can't explain this enough. When you leave, everything, it's so funny because I talked to Jess, my kid, and she's like one of these, Instagrammers and selfie persons. And, I mean, it's just like amazing because, she's in her 20s. And I said to her, she's like Instagramming once an hour, always Instagramming, always. And I explained to her, that the day that you leave, all your web presence, everything that you've done on the web, it just, the plug gets pulled and it all goes away. And it's like, poof, you're gone. It's like you've never existed. And I told her, see, that's not a foundation on which to build your life. Right? But, that'll all disappear. But I do have a personal Facebook page. If you search Randi Rhodes Dominical.
Okay.
That's my personal. Dominical, yeah, that's my Facebook page.
I will look for that, and I so appreciate you, and I want to wish you well. I'm selfish in the sense that I want you to keep going, but I understand you get tired, and you've got to take care of yourself, too.
Well, I just think, how many times can I go through the wars, really? How many times? How many times can you say?
Something is going to happen, though.
For the last, let me tell you something.
Like, where's Randi? Where's Randi?
Well, I know. But and I'll want a microphone. Believe me, something will happen, and I'll go, if I can only talk to them today and tell them, what's really going on. And I know I'll have that, but I got to just tell you, the last 14 years, except for the brief moment in 2008 where we actually showed up, and that was the difference. That we showed up was the difference.
Yes, it was.
But it was the only time in all these years that people actually showed up. And other than that, I mean, it's just been horrendous.
Well, you know, Randy, as a black gay man, and I know that's shocking to many people.
It's almost a trifecta.
I know.
If you were Jewish, you know.
I know. Look, I should convert, right?
Yeah.
So one thing I've noticed about this Cliven Bundy thing, and I've waited to see when the racism was going to come out, and it just happened to erupt today.
Yeah.
But I was going to call you up 2 days ago and tell you that Cliven Bundy is the epitome of white privilege. He's been ripping off the government for 20 years.
Yeah, and you know what's really interesting, his little diatribe about, you know, how you were better off in slavery. What's really,
yeah, thank you.
Of course, yeah, you're much better off being beaten, yeah, and tending to your wounds than you are, you know, trying to compete with a white guy out in this environment. At least, you know, he understands it's tough. But what's really interesting is he's criticizing people who are getting subsidized, you know, earned income tax, whatever, while he's stealing the use of federal lands. He's the ultimate deadbeat, the ultimate. I mean, he's taking advantage of a subsidy that doesn't even exist, right?
I mean, most white people, when a black person brings up the topic of white privilege, their eyes sort of glaze over, or they roll their eyes and they say, oh, there's no such thing.
Oh, yes, there is.
But then when you look at Cliven Bundy, he has not only ripped off the government for better of 20 years, he's also remained out of jail in that entire time. And even now, after threatening sedition, still is out of jail and is just expanding his conversation into a racist diatribe, which was natural for him. I mean, he had to go here because white privilege for him is the end-all, be-all. And for a lot of people, I know I've called and said this to you before, but President Barack Obama is a daily reminder to these racists that their white privilege isn't worth a damn.
Well, that it's dissipating and that it is, you know, it's on the verge of extinction, and it should be, because the idea that because you're born a certain color allows you to get away with great crime or, you know, even petty crime or theft or whatever is beyond reason. It's just beyond reason, and that's why I say I want to get into the 21st century. I want to get back to a meritocracy. I want to see, you know, like people who deserve to, you know, get into college and not have to go into debt.
I agree.
You know what I mean? There's so many things that we could be doing for our own selves to get us into the 21st century. But the 21st century is a scary proposition for guys like Cliven. It's scary for Ted Cruz. I mean, if he had to live in a meritocracy, Ted Cruz would, you know, I mean, green eggs and ham would have disqualified him from being a senator.
Well, you know, Ted Cruz is an illegal immigrant from Canada. So.
Listen, it's true. Listen, the idea that, you know, you've got people who go to jail for life, for 3 joints, 1 each time, and that they just busted some drug ring in, I guess it was somewhere in Philadelphia. Bunch of white kids, preppies, you know, selling pot and whatever, and importing it illegally, and, you know, doing everything wrong, and you know, they'll get a slap on the wrist.
Right.
I mean, that's white privilege. White privilege lets you get away with things that, you know, not being white would cost you, you know, your life. Exactly. Look at Trayvon. I mean, honest to God, if George Zimmerman, as a Hispanic American, had killed a white kid that night, the racism would have gone the other way.
He'd been in jail or dead by now.
Right. I mean, there's just no way. But he picked the right victim. You can kill young black boys in this country. You can still pick them off.
Too bad he compromised his soul in the process.
Yeah, too bad he's rotten in hell. Exactly. Thank you. No, I mean, it's all to create this mutual enemy, and the mutual enemy is whatever a group of people can see as a threat. And the thing that's threatened is their white privilege. That is the thing. That old, angry white man. Cliven Bundy is a 67-year-old angry man, white man. And the thing that he finds most threatening in the end, as we just found out, are black people. This is why the Voting Rights Act was gutted. This is, you know, it's so interesting. You listen to the Supreme Court talk out of both sides of their mouth. On the one hand, they say, we don't need voting rights anymore. And as Ruth Bader Ginsburg put it, you're saying, because I'm not getting wet, I should throw away my umbrella in a rainstorm. See, I mean, their logic is so backwards. 10 till.
His comments are beyond repugnant to me. They are beyond despicable to me. They are beyond ignorant to me. And my level of anger is about, you know, go back and listen to Democrats every election year. They want to say Republicans what? Or conservatives what? That conservatives are racist.
You are.
Conservatives hate women.
You do.
Conservatives want old people to die, granny over the cliff. They want the young people. They don't want to. They want young people to fend for themselves. You know, poison the air, poison the water.
Right.
So people that, for the right reasons, saw this case as government overreach, now are like branded because of the ignorant, racist, repugnant, despicable comments of Cliven Bundy.
Exactly. Because you befriended him. You loved on him. You humped his leg. Even though he said to you,
I abide by all of Nevada state laws, but I don't recognize the United States government as even existing.
The courts disagree with...
I mean, you have Cliven Bundy telling you to your face that he does not believe that the U.S. government even exists. He doesn't recognize his own president. He doesn't recognize his own legislature. He doesn't recognize but he's a registered Republican. And you embraced him, and you humped him, and you loved him, and you licked him, and you touched him, and you felt him, and you held him in your little arms. You told him, nestle in my armpit, you little racist you. As long as the militia's down there with you, you're my new best friend. Oh, I'm worried this is going to be a Waco. Oh, I'm worried this is going to be another Ruby Ridge. You sided with those fools, too. You also sided with George Zimmerman. You also sided with Michael Dunn. Your level of anger. Now he's shocked, I tell you. There's gambling in Casablanca. Oh, my God, we scratched beneath the surface of a white supremacist, and he bled. White supremacy. I'm shocked, I tell you. Shocked. It's repugnant.
You may remember that Jon Stewart had a, quote, rally to restore sanity. He invited all of his friends to attend, including this singer. Remember Cat Stevens? He has since changed his name to Yusuf Islam. There's one problem with inviting Mr. Islam to a rally aimed at restoring sanity. Oh, that's the same Islam who infamously is unapologetic for endorsing a fatwa, meaning to kill, a novelist by the name of Salman Rushdie.
Point taken on that one. I'll give you that one. That's a good one. See, I wanted him to play Peace Train, so Ozzy Osbourne could cut him off with Crazy Train, and then the OJs come in, and they end it with Love Train. It was a good bit.
It was.
Had one small flaw, the fatwa guy, but you would be surprised how few non-fatwa musicians have done train-based songs. And were available that weekend. But correct, Mr. Hannity, mistake. I should have looked into it more. I should have known better. I'm just not sure you're the best guy to make the Guilt by Musician Association point.
Obama, he's a piece of shit. I told him stuff in my machine. I said, hey, Hillary, you might want to ride one of these into the sunset.
That was friend and frequent guest on the program, Ted Nugent.
Now, believe it or not, I didn't know about the Cat Stevens fatwa thing when we booked him. But you literally went from a tape of Ted Nugent saying that to, well, that was friend of the show, Ted Nugent. I will say this, though. For all the disingenuous, hypocritical, non-factual, corrosive, hacky, awful word turds that you speak, you did get one thing right.
Stewart went into his tape arsenal, which, by the way, serves as more proof. Remember, he was begging me to stay in New York. He's kind of obsessed with this program.
Me too.
I am obsessed with your program. You can say true things. I am obsessed with your program in the same way that I'm obsessed with antibiotic-resistant superbugs, or the Pacific Garbage Patch, or the KFC Double Down. Because I just can't believe that in this day and age, with all that we know, this is out there. That humanity, that our society is still weighed down by these burdens of a seemingly more medieval time. Like your show. To see it night after night, serving up the same. My God, you're the Arby's of news. How can I not be obsessed with the Arby's of news? Arby's. The Hannity of roast beef sandwiches.
Oh, that was beautiful. That was just stunning. I gotta say, I was half asleep and then I woke all the way up. I hate you, Jon Stewart. I hate you. It was insanely good. I mean, this is exactly it. No one who is sane, no one who is modern, no one who is of the 21st century, no one with a high school diploma, no one with any desire, hopes, or dreams for their children, no one who lives in this world with these people can believe that night after night and day after day and show after show and I mean, that they just keep on selling this same smear, this same BS, this same garbage. It's just, it blows your mind. And people, you know, listen, I will tell you, I looked at the ratings for cable. They're killing themselves. Same thing with radio. I mean, it's so sad. It's so sad. They took these really new, not radio, but radio is a very intimate thing because you usually do it alone. It is masturbation for the mind. They used to call it theater of the mind, which was a very polite 30s, 40s, 50s way of saying, if you put a woman on the radio, men will touch themselves. Which is why I had my 8x10s laminated, so you could wipe them off and use them again. It was forward-thinking even back then. But honest to God, I got to say, they ruined these mediums. Cable was brand new. The whole idea of the internet and being able to, talk to your friends and I mean, the NYPD. You saw the story yesterday, right? NYPD put up a hashtag. They're all modern now. The NYPD, they're all modern now because, and De Blasio, I guess he understood that stop and frisk and the way that they treated kids in Zuccotti Park and the brutality with which the NYPD had been authorized, if not encouraged, to use their fists and their billy clubs and their weapons and their handcuffs and their pepper spray and their non-lethal weapons. You give a cop a non-lethal weapon and he's going to use it. It's just a fact of life. And when we started to militarize our police and give them these non-lethal weapons and give them, authority to wear shields and SWAT teams and carry them, the whole bit, it was over the top. It was really sickening to watch it happen in my city. I didn't see it until the Republican National Convention. I think in 2004. And that's when I saw they had nets, they had free speech zones. And you see, it's so interesting, but the Cliven Bundys of the world didn't complain when they had a free speech zone in freaking Boston, a free speech zone in New York City, where I was in a wire cage. I was literally in a cage that was surrounded by barbed wire in Boston. It blows your mind. But they never said a word because it was happening to me. It was happening to us. It wasn't happening to their side of it. Now all of a sudden, there's a free speech zone, which is wrong, set up in, Cliven Bundy's area. Quite frankly, because they're armed. They're armed, and they had to put them downrange or something. I have no idea. And, it's wrong, though. And they go crazy. They go ballistic. It's just amazing. And it's that old expression, first they came for the unionists, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a unionist. Then they came for the journalists. I didn't say anything because I was. And then they came for the Jews, and I didn't say anything because I was. And then they came for me. That's what exactly happened there. That's exactly what happened. And it's all part of the same corruption. It's all part of the same disgusting privatization, corruption of prisons, corruption. I mean, the whole thing, it's amazingly broken. It's amazingly broken. And it has been. It has been broken since the election of 2000. That was not a free and fair election. I voted in Palm Beach County. I'm sitting in Palm Beach County. I live in Palm Beach County. In 2000, that's where I voted. I was sitting in this chair that day that I came back from voting, trying to vote for Al Gore, and I couldn't do it. because the holes didn't line up. And every time you punched what you thought was Al Gore's little punch card, you were actually choosing Pat Buchanan. It was sick. And nobody said anything. You know, nobody said a word about it. It wasn't a huge problem for America because they liked who won. They liked who won. But the Supreme Court, even back then, was activist, and it said, stop counting the votes in Florida. 36 days I sat here broadcasting, going, count the damn votes, count the damn votes, count the damn votes. And then the Supreme Court got, what the federal government, you want to talk about overreach, what were the feds doing choosing the state's slate of electors, which is what the Electoral College is? What the hell did they, and in their opinion, they wrote, this isn't precedent, it's just this one time. It was the sickest decision. Now we've got an attack on the Voting Rights Act. Then we have an attack on affirmative action. And the right wing loves this result. They love this result. They love disenfranchising anyone who isn't them. Anyone who isn't them. I mean, this is the shrill, shrieking fishwife.
We have no control over our birth. We have no control over our skin color. We are Americans, all of us, in this constant effort, some of it devious, some of it not, to keep dividing us along this line or that line is un-American. I don't care if it's dressed up by liberal Democrats as compassion, because it's not. And Justice Sotomayor can write 5 billion pages of propaganda if that's what she wishes to do.
Propaganda.
The fact of the matter is, in this country, I've read different stories here and there, half a century or so, the white race will be the minority race.
There you have it. The white race will be a minority race. And so while they have the power, they want to make sure that African Americans know their place, and it isn't in the voting booth. It's not in the at the ballot box. It's certainly not in the jury box. This is the last grasp at their white privilege. This is the last chance they have, and they know it. They know it.
Long before Martin Luther King said it.
Shut up, Martin Luther King.
Long before the Civil Rights Movement of the 1950s and 60s.
Which I'm sure you were totally involved
Long before any Civil Rights Act, any Voting Rights Act.
Mm-hmm.
Harlan said,
Justice Harlan,
we are to be a colorblind society. That's what the Constitution compels.
Really?
That's what the Civil War meant.
That is so fascinating to me, Mark Levin, lawyer at the Landmark Legal Foundation. A lawyer, no less. A lawyer. Why am I not surprised that a lawyer is a moron? Maybe it's because I know entirely too many of them. Justice Harlan said America was to be a colorblind. Justice Harlan was the dissenter in Plessy versus Ferguson, separate but equal. Mm-hmm. The Constitution did not say, and neither did Harlan, that the Constitution shall be colorblind. In fact, we all know that up until the time we ratified the 13th and 14th Amendment, the Constitution said only white, seeing color there, white, maybe not a color. They may be technically right. White might not be a color. It's a color without color. The Constitution was never colorblind until we amended it to try to create another class of people who were citizens. That is what the 14th Amendment did. It created another class of citizens who were, another class of people who were citizens, because the originalists did not include women and did not include Africans who were not African Americans. They were Africans. But it's so interesting. When you read Harlan's dissent in Plessy, he said, quote, the dominant race in this country that Harlan said would continue to be for all time if it remains true to its great heritage and holds fast to the principles of constitutional liberty. He said, there is a race so different from our own that we do not permit those belonging to it to become citizens of the United States. Persons belonging to it are, with few exceptions, Absolutely excluded from our country. How in the world did he get from these words to Harlan said that the Constitution is colorblind? How do you get there? And how do you hold how do you hold yourself out as an attorney fighting for liberty when you don't understand words? You just don't understand words. It's a phenom.
Word turds.
That's what they are. They're word turds. Oh, my God. There is a race so different from our own that we do not permit those belonging to it to become citizens of the United States. Persons belonging to it are, with few exceptions, absolutely excluded from our country. Colorblind, he says. That's what he concluded. He needs Head Start. Mathnasium? Something. Is there a school for wayward lawyers? Wow. That just is like, and I listen to that crap driving home because there's nothing else. There's really nothing else. 20 after.
Randi Rhodes.
You are 10 digits away from the ride of your life. 866-87-RANDY. This is the Randi Rhodes Show.
Hi, Phoenix. Call me right now at 866-87-RANDY. 866-877-2634. This is the Randi Rhodes Show. Steve on Long Island.
Hi, Randy.
Hello, Steve.
I'm going to miss you terribly. You know that.
You know that.
But unfortunately, Stewart and Hannity is a Long Island resident, which, God, I hate to admit that fact, but he is.
Yeah.
And, I was told as a little kid, you are judged by the company you keep.
Yeah.
You know what? Sean, he's going to be judged by the company he keeps, and he knows it. And everyone that is aligned with him knows it. And it's only a matter of time before he goes into the ether like all the others. Because he's about as smart as a block of wood.
Oh, he's dumb as a rock, that one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting to, know that Mark Levin is feeding him the talking point. I mean, it's just like the most amazing little cabal of crap that you've ever seen in your life. Truly.
Well, I think it's a circle jerk of morons.
It is. It's a scam, too. I mean, everybody's making money the whole way, taking it from those Tea Party people, the people that are, just they whip them up into a frenzy, and then they tell them, hey, we got you. Give to the Heritage Foundation. Give to the Tea Party Patriots. And these people abscond with $8 million paydays, or Jim DeMint, gets his $1 million payday. The Heritage Foundation with, $300 million in assets is taking $25 from some guy in West Virginia that hasn't had a job in 5 years.
They're taking it from the least. They're not only taking it from people that don't have jobs. They're targeting the elderly. And you should see, I mean, I don't know if you get some of the mailings. I see all of them. And just the stuff on the outside of the envelope sends these elderly people into a frenzy. They think our country is literally coming to an end because of this president. And then you explain to them that it's propaganda, and they don't know how to stop it. They can't find a way to stop the mailings. And it's a problem.
It is a problem. I've seen the crap that they send out. I mean, like, I subscribed to a whole bunch of their stuff for a really long time, and I finally decided, to clear my mailbox, right? And so I unsubscribed to all these things. And, it's really interesting to unsubscribe to all these things. It's a tiny little, teeny little thing at the very bottom of all this mess that says to unsubscribe to our email. And then you click on that, and some of them want your password, and they want your this, and they want your that. Because they're selling everyone's information, which is why some people are getting stuff from people that they have no idea how they got that, because guys like Dick Morris sell their email list. Newsmax sells the email list.
Oh, and Newsmax magazine is out and about too now. Now they're sending out a magazine.
Listen, it's all propaganda. There's no question. That they want people ginned up, angry, and they want to get them out to vote for their candidates, who will then turn around and, deregulate every industry that's supporting it for real. Meanwhile, these people are parting with their $20 on fixed incomes. These people are parting with their $5, and they're not working, and they think that they're contributing to a cause that is going to help them. And truly, truly, they're contributing to Dick Morris. They're contributing to Glenn Beck's fortune. They're contributing to Sean Hannity's fortune. They're contributing to Rush Limbaugh's fortune. They're not contributing to anything that's going to look out for them. I mean, every time O'Reilly spins his little pen in my face, I just, I'm like, I just want to, I want to mash an eyeball out already.
Randy, out here we have 2 Republicans fighting for Tim Bishop's District 1 seat. One is George Demos, and the other one is Lee Zeldin. I went to school with Lee. He's a moderate. He's a true moderate. He's in the state now. This guy Demos is telling everybody how he voted for the expansion of Medicare, and Zeldin's going, well, put me in Washington. I'm going to try to fix the health care bill. And now they're running an ad saying, we don't need this guy to fix it. We don't need any health care at all. And I'm thinking, this is one of the states, one of the top 5 states with enrollees in the health care plan.
Right.
What choice? You're running.
Yeah. But you know what? That's going to blow up in their face, too, just like everything else does.
I know.
This is a bad bet.
Turn up your mind here, now. This is the Randy Rhodes Show.
I know it may be tempting. It may be tempting for some when they look at the accomplished professionals in this room, or the lawyer who works in the Oval Office, or consider the fact that I have the privilege of serving as the Attorney General of the United States, to feel that this country's long struggle to overcome disparity and discrimination has ended. But as Justice Sonia Sotomayor said just yesterday in her courageous and very personal dissent in the Michigan college admissions case, we ought not, and I quote, wish away rather than confront the racial inequality that exists in our society.
So, progress, yes. Case closed? No. Problem solved? Not even close. The amount of racism that's in our society today is so perverse, because now saying that there's racism is being a racist. Understanding that freedom is not enough. Understanding that you don't wipe away centuries of wrong, centuries. We're done 400 freaking years of wrong, and setting up a constitution that doesn't recognize its black people as part of the country, citizens of the nation that was just created. And then, finally saying, okay, well, we'll recognize you after years and years of Supreme Courts weighing in and saying, no, you're so different. You are a race so different from us that, we can't permit you to become citizens of the United States. We just can't. You have to overcome centuries of that kind of stuff before you can do as you please, before you can be really free. You don't take somebody who has come from, who has been alive during or experiencing currently segregated neighborhoods, segregated schools, institutionalized racism in banking, in predatory lending, in payday lending, in all those things, and say, problem solved. The Constitution was always colorblind. You moron. The Constitution wasn't colorblind ever. We amended it to try and make it slightly more colorblind by creating a class of citizens who didn't have inalienable rights. To this day, African Americans don't have inalienable rights under our Constitution. They have rights that were given to them by white people. That's what the 14th Amendment is. And 1965, my God, I was alive. I was a kid, but I was alive. I lived through it. I watched my parents watch it on television. I listened to my parents talk about it, stand up to it, refuse to accept it, work against it, teach me not to believe it, that it wasn't true, that people were so different that they should never, ever be considered equal to me. And now, saying things like that, has become the new racism. It blows your mind. It just blows your mind, and it reminds you that, when we passed the Civil Rights Act in 1964, 1965, and now, of course, the Supreme Court is just like undoing all of it, undoing everything. And, it is like the poem, first they came for the socialists, right? And you did nothing because you weren't a socialist. Well, they've been going after socialists. And then they came for the trade unionists, and you did nothing because you weren't a member of a union. Well, they did that. They went after the unionists, and you didn't say anything because you weren't a member of a union. Then they came for the Jews, and just a couple of days ago, we've had the hunting of the Jews make a lovely comeback, and you didn't say anything because you're not Jewish, and then they'll come for you, Cliven. Now they're gunning for Cliven. Now he's reprehensible. Oh, it's amazing. This month-long bromance that Fox News had with Cliven Bundy is now over, because Cliven Bundy scratched the surface and he bled white supremacy, because he always was a white supremacist, and the Jaegers of the world and those militia guys and the Oath Keepers and that sheriff out there that was going to put the women in the front. I mean, they're all a bunch of lunatic white supremacists. They all feel threatened by a diverse United States, which was the goal of the Voting Rights Act, of affirmative action, of equal rights, of the 13th Amendment, of the 14th Amendment. It has been a goal in this country to right hideous wrongs. That's a good thing. You can feel comfortable if you agree with me that you're on the right side of history. Feel good about that. Feel comfortable about that. Feel blessed for that. Feel happy about that. Feel hopeful about that. But the people who don't, you are on the wrong side of history, of progress, of what it means to amend your Constitution, to get the corruption of money out of politics, to get the people heard, to participate in your own citizenship, your own democracy. Your job is to keep the light on. Just like at home, your job is to keep the lights on. Well, in the public arena, your job is to keep the lights on, too. Because if you don't keep the lights on, the cockroaches come out of the woodwork. And they start taking your food. Here, I'm going to play you just like a minute of LBJ at Howard University in 1965, talking about how freedom is not enough. You actually have to open the gates of opportunity. Every citizen of ours must be able to walk through the gates of opportunity.
Equal opportunity is essential, but not enough. Not enough. Men and women of all races are born with the same range of abilities. But ability is not just the product of birth. Ability is stretched or stunted by the family that you live with and the neighborhoods you live in, by the school you go to, and the poverty or the richness of your surroundings. It is the product of 100 unseen forces playing upon the little infant, the child, and finally the man.
Let me tell you something. If the state is allowed to give preferences to white people, which it does regularly. This university case is just really interesting, that they used this particular arena, education, to strike, and they always do. They always go after education, separated, segregated schools, standing in the schoolhouse door, the Little Rock, Arkansas, brave kids who walked through that door, who succeeded beyond everybody's, hopes and dreams, because they felt the weight of the world on their shoulders to succeed. But I got to say that they always go after schools, because education is the great equalizer, and everybody knows it. Everybody understands information is the coin of the realm. The more you know, the better off you are. The more education you can cram into your brain, whether you're self-taught, you're homeschooled, it doesn't really matter where you get it. As long as you got it, information will set you free. Everybody knows it, and this is why they always go after schools. So they did it in this case, too, this affirmative action case, too. They go after state universities, right? And what's really interesting is that when you look at the legacy admissions, meaning privileged white kids, rich, wealthy white kids, or just plain old white kids, there is clear evidence, it's in the New York Times today, clear evidence that 30% of the admissions to Princeton are wealthy, well-connected white kids whose parents went to Princeton. Same with Harvard. It's about 25% for Yale. You get 160 extra points added to your SAT scores, yeah, if you are a privileged white kid whose parent, why do they do that? Because they want the parent who went to Princeton to continue to donate to Princeton. They want the parent who went to Harvard to continue to pony up the bucks for Harvard, knowing that one of the side things they get is their kid gets admitted to that same Ivy League school that they went to. That's how George Bush got into Yale as a C student. That's how John Kerry did it, too. He was like, his average, I think, was like 76. So that's okay. White privilege must be honored. But God help you if you're looking to get some points added to your college admission score based on overcoming adversity or hardship or segregated schools or a neighborhood where crime is the norm or a neighborhood where you'd be the very first person on your block to ever go to an Ivy League college, or you'd be the very first person on your block to go to a state school. You'd be the very first person on your block to go to college. Oh, no, you shouldn't get any extra points, and it doesn't admit you because you're black. And I've heard all these stories. Oh, you got in because he was black. No, he didn't get in because he was black. Affirmative action doesn't allow for quotas, and it certainly doesn't allow for tiebreakers, okay? What it allows for is some points for merit-based achievement. They give merit-based achievement for extracurricular activities, too. They give extra points to people who are athletic. They give extra points to bassoon players. Always looking for a bassoon player. Flautists, there are a dime of them. But a bassoon player, well, now you're talking. But not if you're black anymore. It is the most bizarre assault on civil rights that the right wing has been engaged in for 30 years. For 30 years. Tim in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, boy. Hey, how you doing?
Oh, my God. Oh.
I'm kind of depressed.
Oh, no, don't.
I was actually woke up the other day very sad, and then I realized it was because you're not going to be on the radio anymore. And I don't know who I'll be, where I'm going. But, now, do I have to find out through Gary, like, how to get a hold of you when you're not around anymore?
I keep telling everybody I'm on Facebook like every other person.
Well, I actually said hello to you there, but it's, which one is it? Because there's more than one, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a ton of them, but my real one is if you Google Randi Rhodes Dominical.
Okay.
You see a picture of a blonde girl with a dog that looks like her?
Okay.
That's me.
Okay, Dominical. Okay.
That's me.
All right. Because, have you ever gone to the flower show at Southern Boulevard? At Mounts? Have you ever been to that plant show?
No, but I love gardening.
Yeah, I know. Well, so do, I've listened to you. I have got, actually, I'm determined I'm going to keep my house. I'm not losing it. But I'm a plant collector. So, I thought, well, I'm going to have to make Randy my friend. I don't know if it's going to be clean. I don't know if it's going to be learning more Yiddish that I love. I don't know what it's going to be. But I'm going to have to know this lady because, But, it's very interesting.
Well, we could garden together or something.
Say what?
We can garden together.
Wonderful.
But not until October, because anything you plant right now that isn't a perennial is it's gonna just burn up. So
it depends.
Well, what's gonna make it through the summer?
My perfume tree is just coming out. Some of my orchids are for the summer.
Yeah, you could do your orchids. Yeah.
There's lots of things that happen in the summer.
I guess I know.
Yeah. But anyway, I think. Growing up being a gay person, you have to I had to examine spirituality. And it wasn't really until I started, and I know you know about Nam Myoho Renge Kyo because I've heard you say something about I think I've heard you say it, haven't you?
Yes.
The Buddhist, yeah. There are things that, when you go to a Buddhist meeting, we have actually the conference center for this half of the world is here in Broward County. And when you walk into that place, you just see every color, every age, everything, because, you know, you were talking about how some people are on the wrong side of history.
Mm-hmm.
People are on the wrong side of humanity.
That's right, they are.
Once you understand
when you spend your days meditating and looking inward versus when you spend your days strapped and looking for targets, you come out with a different bearing, a different frame of mind, you know, a different way of living.
Like you know, in the Northeast, you grow up around so many different kinds of people. You know, just turning on Fox News for 5 minutes, there's so much slander of your fellow person. There's so much contempt. Because you really need somebody to tell you that you shouldn't be listening to these miscreants. I mean, what's wrong with people that they've lost their moral compass? That's what I was talking to.
Well, the good news is, let me cheer you up. The good news is, like I said, I started this and I didn't finish it, but I looked at the cable ratings today. No one is watching. I mean, really, you know, on a good day, they're not even getting 1 million viewers anymore. It's really sad. It's very, very. I mean, they took a medium that had all the promise in the world, that had all kinds of, you know, freer speech available to them because they weren't over the air, they weren't on the public airwaves, and they could have built something fabulous. But everybody, and I mean everybody, got into it for their own self-aggrandizement. They used it for their own personal platform, for their own personal money-making ability, for their own personal egos. You know, and that's what destroyed, you know, Air America, tell you the truth. And it's the same people. But the ratings are so pitiful. We've got a country of, what, 315 million people, 305 million people. You can't even attract 1 million people.
Right.
Fox News, not even close. You know, none of them. CNN is what are they?
Well, I know the people that they knocked off at KDLK because that's Persephone. That's how I used to listen to her on iHeart.
Yeah.
And there's nobody listening on that station anymore.
I know, and I just saw that they've shuffled all the salespeople because they're having, like, they're bleeding revenue now because we're gone and they have to sell this swill and they can't sell it because advertisers don't want to be associated.
But I have to say to you,
listen, they're killing
I haven't heard you sound this happy in a while, so I think you must really be thrilled that you're going, I guess, right?
You know what? I don't feel like I feel like how did I say it? A friend of mine said, "Why are you leaving? Why are you getting out?" That's what it was. Why are you getting out? I said, "I don't feel like I'm getting out. I feel like I'm getting in to the next 30 years of my life."
What do you think it'll be?
You know what? We'll see. We'll see. I'll tell you one thing. You don't plan to be a talk radio show host. No one in radio plans to be in radio. No one. It just happens. It's one of those